Yo yamamo akwaba shonkoso eba POG Media message obe subscribe na wa like it. Eyo man penny John Dramani Mahama one ensentry for a share chaso omobobo asem ho na ora ho nsensem wabobo din atrebe bia eye sa dwumadi nyina no ekwa akosi yenko ne konkotie eye ora eye John Dramani Mahama odin sem dodo na eye de to yenko ne konkotie
steadily and remaining firmly on course. In the Republic versus Wȧrn and 3 others, the state has submitted witness statements together with all other documents, and trial has commenced. And the first of 3 prosecution witnesses have been called and have been cross-examined by counsel for the accused person. With the SkyTrain case, for instance, the prosecutors have secured a trial date, as all preliminary matters have been concluded and the trial is set to commence. For the National Service Authority case, due to its expansive nature, charges have been drafted and will be filed as soon as the legal year begins against the following person: the Republic versus Pr0sėcutė, the Republic versus Eric Nyako, the Republic versus Gifty Owari. Also for the National Cathedral, we are awaiting a forensic audit from the Auditor General. Additionally, charges have been drafted and are ready for filing in the case of Republic versus Wontumi and Akuffo. The Economic and Organized Crime Office, IOCO, is finalizing its report with respect to Exim Bank transactions. Dockets are in preparation for the buffer stock case and the drip equipment case. Investigations are ongoing into the African Cup of Nations case, the Mat Set case, and approximately 20 other cases currently. Let me be clear, every single case of corruption that needs to be investigated is being looked into. And once evidence is found to ground the prosecution, that will happen and happen swiftly. Looking within, we launched a code of conduct for public officials with an insistence on strict compliance. A high-level working group has been inaugurated to draft a new anti-corruption strategy aimed at strengthening ethical governance and institutional coordination. My fellow citizens, the scourge of Galamsey is receiving much attention. We've established the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, naūs, as the Central Operations Command Center coordinating the national fight against illegal mining and its associated environmental degradation. In a coordinated effort across all security agencies and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, 440 excavators have been seized. Over 1,400 arrests have been made, with suspects awaiting prosecution. Over 300 Shamfang machines have been confiscated and destroyed. Over 900 water pumps seized from illegal mining sites have been handed over to the Ministry of Agriculture for distributing to farmers for irrigation purposes. Of Ghana's 288 forest reserves, 44 had previously suffered varying degrees of destruction from illegal mining. Notably, 9 of those reserves had become no-go zones due to the presence of armed groups. Through the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and with support from the security agencies, we've successfully repossessed all 9 of these red-zoned forest reserves. However, over the weekend, the Jimira Forest Reserve and the Anria Futu section of the Offense Shelter Belt was re-invaded by illegal miners after these were handed back to the Forestry Commission. The military is currently working with naūs to repossess those reserves and establish a permanent presence in those liberated forest reserves to prevent re-incursion by illegal miners. 980 personnel have been recruited, trained and deployed in the Western and Savannah regions. They conduct daily operations on major river bodies, serving as community vanguards to ward off illegal mining activities. An additional 1,020 personnel will be recruited and deployed by the end of the year, bringing the total force to 2,000 blue water guards. The next phase will focus on dechemicalizing and restoring our water bodies to their pristine state. Feasibility studies for this critical restoration efforts are currently underway. In collaboration with the Ministry of Transport, the Ministry of Finance, GRA Customs Division, and the Ports and Harbours Authority, we've instituted a system for the proactive tracking of all imported excavators and earth-moving equipment from the port of entry. 1,200 excavators are going through the permitting process from the Transport Ministry, clearance from Customs registration with DVLA, and tracking at the Minerals Commission. So far, we've registered 1,015 earth-moving and mining equipment. 647 have been registered and fitted with tracking devices. There are an additional 600 equipment at the ports awaiting clearance. An additional 358 tracking devices are expected by September 12, 2025 to enhance this monitoring effort. The Constitutional Review Commission is actively engaging stakeholders across the country, gathering views on how best to shape the future framework of Ghana's democracy. This inclusive approach ensures that voices of citizens, civil society, and institutions are reflected in the evolving constitutional order. Friends, internal security is important for economic progress. Pursuant to our commitment to improving security, we have earmarked 1 billion Ghana cedis to retool our security agencies. The Ministry of Energy has recently granted a declaration of commerciality for the Eban Akroma oil and gas discoveries in Cape 3 Points, Block 4, confirming their commercial viability. This paves the way for the joint venture partners ENI Vitol, Woodfields, and the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation to proceed with a full plan of development of this oil well. This milestone brings us closer to increased oil and gas production, job creation, and enhanced energy security, reinforcing our commitment to responsible resource management for the benefit of all Ghanaians. We've also approved the construction of a second gas processing plant, GPP2, to double our national processing capacity and set the stage for cheaper, cleaner, and more reliable power generation. This landmark project alone is expected to save the country close to $500 million every 2 years by drastically cutting our reliance on expensive imported liquid fuel. Beyond the cost reduction, it is projected to create over 1,000 direct and indirect jobs, fueling both industry and livelihoods. We can all attest to the fact that the looming threat of doomsday we inherited in January this year has been averted. Through strategic interventions and swift action, power supply has remained stable across the country, ensuring uninterrupted electricity for households, businesses, and essential services. We've made significant strides in restoring fiscal decentralization. In the past 8 years, only 40% to 50% of the District Assembly's Common Fund was reaching metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies, constraining their capacity to deliver local services. Our government has reversed this trend. District assemblies are now receiving 80% of their allocation directly. Of the 7.57 billion allocated for DACF this year, approximately 6.1 billion has gone straight to local assemblies, with a minimum of 25 million allocated to each MMDA. Already the first quarter disbursement of 987.97 million has been released to kickstart district level development. To ensure focused impact, Cabinet has approved expenditure guidelines for the districts. 25% of the fund is to support design and construction of what we call 24-hour economy model markets. 10% is allocated for health, with a minimum of 2 CHIPS compounds per district. Education, 1 kg, 1 primary, 1 GS block, potable water, at least 10 boreholes, environmental sanitation, and school furniture. 7.5% for MMDA administration, monitoring and evaluation, and 20% is allocated to finish and finished legacy projects. Simultaneously, all statutory funds such as 2.03 billion to the National Health Insurance Fund and 2.71 billion to GET Fund covering NHIS arrears and free SHS have been released in full, underscoring our commitment to public service delivery and local empowerment. Next week, I'll cut the sword in 3 locations to signal the start of the Big Push program. The first phase understandably covers mainly the road sector. Everyone will admit that over the last 8 years, our road infrastructure has deteriorated remarkably. This year alone, almost 14 billion Ghana cedis of our oil and gold revenues have been earmarked for the Big Push program. Critical road projects such as the Ofanko and Sawam roads, which were chronically underfunded, have been transferred under the Big Push program and recently received a release of almost 1 billion cedis to ensure speedy completion by the end of second quarter of next year. My media colleagues, our reset agenda remains on course, and I've remained unwavering in my commitment not only to the promise I made to you in the run-up to the 2024 elections, but to the principles of honesty, transparency, and probity and accountability that define good governance. I'm resolute in laying foundations for economic recovery, resetting our institutions to reflect the demands of modern governance and enhanced service delivery for every Ghanaian. I'm driven by a deep determination to see the dreams of our forebears for an economically independent and self-reliant Ghana realized in our lifetime. I'm equally determined to restore Ghana's rightful place as a respected voice and actor on the global stage. With your continued trust and support, I'm confident that we will not only meet these goals, but also build a nation that serves the hopes of this generation and the aspirations of generations yet unborn. May God bless us all, and may God bless our homeland, Ghana. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. At this stage, we will delve straight into the question and answer session, which will be guided by the following rubric. There will be 1 question per questioner, and this is to ensure that we maximize the time. This program is supposed to last for 1.5 hours, and we are due to leave here at 9:30. I would also entreat you to avoid lengthy preambles to questions so that we can afford as many of you the opportunity to ask questions. There will be 5 batches of questioning with 4 questions in each batch. 2 microphones will be placed on either side of the middle row to enable these questions to be asked. So at this stage, I'll call on the ushers and stewards to position the microphones so that the questions could be asked. Okay, so the gentlemen on either side of the middle row are with the microphone. So if you want to ask a question, please put up your hand. You catch my attention, I will. All right.
Joe Guswa Hujumedi and John Dramani Mahama Ekuswa or Kasana. Questions and in for BBP and also you have a call near Kwakuti, but subscribe, like it, and share. Nema for friends when Sanka be kindly click on the notification bell. So you call near Kunkuti.
So we have the president of the Ghana Journalists Association who is supposed to embody your collective aspirations. So I would accord him the courtesy of asking the first question. So Mr. Jomfo, you may ask the first question. After which I see Kojo Pr0sėcutė, and then the Moses of Bloomberg. And then one lady in the middle to bring the number to 4. Mr. Jomfo, you may ask your question, please.
Thank you, Honorable. Mr. President, thank you so much for this opportunity. And having been given the opportunity to set the tone for the media encounter, permit me to commend you for availing yourself for this media encounter and for your commitment to transparency and accountability. Your willingness to face scrutiny just 8 months into your term set a commendable example of good governance. We also wish to commend you for your assurance and firm commitment to safeguarding the safety and protection of journalists across the country. Now my question, Mr. President, as you may be aware, remuneration and general working conditions in the media are not the best, especially in the state-owned media, which falls under the authority of government. This situation is a key factor in our low ranking on the World Press Freedom Index under the economic indicator. What measures is your government putting in place to improve working conditions in the state-owned media and also to provide relief for those in the private media? Also, assault on journalists are on the rise. And I know this is of great concern to you as a journalist yourself and a proud member of the Inky fraternity. The Ghana Journalists Association would therefore like to know what your government is doing to address this disturbing trend. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Kojo, you may have the microphone now.
Good evening. My name is Kojo Pr0sėcutė, POG Media. In your remarks, you did touch on the issue of mining, and I want to commend your government with the achievements you chalked. But recently, we heard that Ghana Water Company is proposing almost about 280% increment in tariffs. One of the major reasons they raised has to do with galamsey and how it is affecting them to get us good or potable water. In this way, I would want to ask, Mr. President, would you then consider the argument that we should have the state of emergency when it comes to illegal mining? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kojo. I believe I called the Moses of Bloomberg. Yes.
Your Excellency, thank you very much. My name is Akroma, a correspondent of Bloomberg. Your Excellency, Ghana's economic indicators have turned into a positive trajectory, and buoyed by the ratings you also referenced and investor confidence. Do you think that that gives enough scope for you to go back to the international capital market, maybe for your first Eurobond after the default? Thank you.
Okay, so we'll take the final question in this batch from the lady whose hand is up.
Medase, Ediame Jeso, ene apina pukua, when near me wo Addo Brand, Sadum TV, and Addo FM. Masembisa Efa and Kania boy and the Yenim say ECG, a proposed 225%. Yenim said me more and to by a base 2.45. In July, a cost by 14.75. Ning now see him say a bind one is so the 25 economy. Or the Bayejima na Ghana for the Duenya Mufaso. It is say ECG the 225% increment eba. Yenim hawa proposal no any hunkumudi bekone percentage of the betina. Ebeko Ghana for Bibena na company say ano yedin. Yebisa se betumenya nsusanso ewo 24 economy no so Ghana for butum na ebium saban be hwese obeso asne eye subsidy ama omanfo ho atoma na medase.
Your medase. So, His Excellency the President will field these questions at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President of GGME. Your question is a double question, one on remuneration and the other on assault of journalists. With regards to remuneration, I would say that it's not only journalists in the state-owned media who are dissatisfied with their salaries. Public service salaries are not living wages. I agree with the TUC that we must work towards a living wage. All of us are dissatisfied with the salary we get as public servants. The private sector offers better remuneration, but that's why we have to work together to grow the national cake so that we can pay ourselves better. And that is why there's agitation for cancellation of Article 71 in the Constitution, because we all must feel the pinch so that we can grow things together. But when you cushion a certain constitutional class and they have more cushy remuneration than the other people, then it creates a kind of discrimination between public service. And so our advocacy has been for an independent emoluments commission that would deal with the salaries and wages of all persons in the public sector so that we grow those wages together. In our first incarnation under Professor Mills, we established a single spine salary structure. And that salary structure was supposed to uniform out wages in the public sector so that the disparity will not be too wide. So if you are a secretary in GBC compared to a secretary in, say, Bank of Ghana, there will not be that very wide disparity. Unfortunately, the single spine atonsum, because of the inability to maintain the discipline in public sector wages. Over the last 8 years, the group that is able to strike the most gets more addition to their wages than those that don't go on strike. And so the disparities have occurred again. And so we're in consultation with organized labor to see what we can do about reforming public sector wages. And I'm sure that if those wages are made better, journalists working in the public sector would also have an improvement in their remuneration.
You are honey, did you no ABC at the amount message or subscribe, like it, Jumadian share the mouth for friends and San Kabi, na Jumadian and Koso 101. Jumadi, yet the home and some be rebel there, Bebremo, Makramo.